Good morning. My name is Kingsley Ezugo. This is a public broadcast by Justice for Ezugo family. I was recording this as a part 2, and suddenly the video shut down. I don't know what made the video to shut down, so my apologies. This was supposed to be a 2-part series of the Dynamite revelations. So it's going to be 3 parts now. So this is the 3rd part. We are, of course, dealing with an unprecedented case, hence this unprecedented campaign. May I please ask you, members of the public, to please watch the 1st and the 2nd video of this series before you watch this one. They are very revealing, and it requires you to take action in bringing this unprecedented campaign of public importance to the public, wider public view, to ensure that it succeeds. What is you find on my cap, just let me repeat that. I did this in the other videos, just in case you have not seen the 1st and the 2nd part of this series. Our profile is at Ezugo family. E-Z-E is there written on my shirt. E-Z-E-U-G-O, children, at Ezugo children. And next to that are the names of my 3 children. Master Chiba, Uche Chiba, Master Narita Billion, and Princess Adora. The 3 Ezugo children who were abducted in this unbelievable case, in this most alarming case, a case where the facts are more stranger than any fiction you will ever hear. But they are true facts. These children were abducted on the 3rd of August 2017, and a criminal conspiracy between the then 3rd most senior Judge Brian Leveson, who was also the head of criminal justice, the president of the King's Bench Division, and the author of Leveson Inquiry. A criminal conspiracy where he is the ringleader, as a court confidential document, and the tons of covered recordings of the senior government lawyers, police officers, and other staff showed without any shadow of a doubt. And he is in conspiracy in this abduction with the former Commissioner of Police, Cressida Dick, and the senior government lawyers who are also my opponents at the Ministry of Justice in the Government Legal Department. This campaign, you will hear the objective of this campaign, and you can also read that on our profile, is to make the child abduction and abuse of children, of violence against women history. These crimes were committed by people in powerful positions. We want to ensure that people in powerful positions, such as judges, police officers, government lawyers, as in this case, cannot commit such heinous crimes with absolute impunity. We want to stop change the status quo at the JudiciaryUK, which covers up and promote these most vile criminals to high places to cover up their crimes. In this case, Brian Leveson and the so-called Mr. Justice Foskett and his gang and others, my other opponents, the Ministry of Justice and the Metropolitan Police, abducted my children in their most desperate attempt to cover up the previous abduction, the sexual abuse and attempted murder of my children, and the attempted murder of my wife. Not only that they did that, they kidnapped me under the direction of Brian Leveson, kidnapped me, held me hostage for 4 long years. They subjected me to most extreme torture and repeatedly attempted to assassinate me. I survived only because great people, some good human beings, staff in prison where I was locked up, having committed no offense in my life, and even in mental hospital where I was held hostage, having suffered absolutely no mental illness. And the people who did this, as you will find from the tons of evidence of the covert recordings that I made at Chest Farm Hospital, Enfield, all of them knew that they were engaged in criminal conspiracy to murder an innocent man just to cover up his heinous crimes, the abduction, the sexual abuse and attempted murder of my children. Because the evidence is so damaging, will be so damaging to Brian Leveson because of his involvement in these crimes. So if you, at the bottom of it, as I say, it has the title of our campaign, which is Justice for Ezugo Family. And at the top of my cap is our other profile at Kingsley Ezugo. Kingsley, K-I-N-S-L-E-Y, Ezugo, E-Z-E-U-G-O. And below that it says, no judge is above law. And then next to that it says, arrest Brian Leveson. So this campaign, amongst other things, is seeking for the immediate arrest and prosecution of Brian Leveson, the so-called Mr. Justice Foskett, Peter Openshaw, and other judges, police officers, and government lawyers, and NHS consultants who are involved in this criminal, three long decade criminal conspiracy and cover-up that has resulted in hundreds of crimes of heinous and abominable nature that continues to this day. Crimes that, as the lawyer for the Commissioner of Police, Stephen Morley, told the Court of Appeal on the 9th of June 2010 to have involved hundreds of police officers. So we are dealing with an unprecedented case, and the judges, every judge who has been who have dealt with this case, found it to be unprecedented case, an extreme case, and a case that raises issue of considerable public importance, and a case which the public has the right to know. And they say that this case must be heard. But what we have is a criminal conspiracy continuing since Brian Leveson left office by the current president of the King's Bench, Victoria Sharp, who have taken every steps to even escalate the criminal conspiracy to cover up these crimes by ensuring now for 17 long years they have frustrated any attempt to get this case to court, to trial, because the evidence is so damaging, and because they couldn't silence me, because they couldn't force me to an out-of-court settlement, because I want the public to hear the evidence, and I want to hold them accountable in criminal court to ensure that they face criminal prosecution, because I refuse to accept money. I didn't need the money. I don't want the money. I want justice for my children. And because of that, they attempted to assassinate me. So I am dealing with every parent's worst nightmare scenario. I am dealing with undoubtedly Britain's worst scandal, which has now lasted for 30 years and counting, involving the judiciary, the Ministry of Justice, the Metropolitan Police, and Barnet, Enfield, and Haringey Mental Health, NHS Mental Health Trust, who are involved in criminal conspiracy in the abduction, the sexual abuse, and an attempted murder of my children, the attempted murder of my wife, the destruction of my family, the destruction of my wife, the evidence in this case so damaging that they wanted to settle. They don't want the public to hear it, despite the fact that every senior and appellant judge, rational senior and appellant judge who's been involved in this case, said the public has a right to hear this case and that it must proceed. You have Brian Leveson, the chief culprit in this crime, abusing his authority to the most extreme to prevent it being heard. And you have the current president of the King's Bench, Victoria Sharp, continuing the abuse by abusing her position as the president of the King's Bench to prevent this case being heard. And to not only this case, to prevent other cases, including the cases against their proxy, the Barnet, Enfield, Haringey, NHS Mental Health Trust. All these cases has been obstructed, that they have not been issued or heard, because the evidence, as they say, is so damaging that they don't want the public to hear it. So you, the public, I ask you, fight. We have to fight. Fight to ensure that they cannot do this to your children, and they cannot do this to any other member of the public, and ensure that they cannot get away with this, because if they get away with it, they will do it again. And I'm fighting to ensure that they do not get away with it. And I have the evidence, mountains and mountains of evidence, which is what is frightening them. And we must ensure to use that. You please, I ask you to help me raise the awareness by sharing this video as widely as possible. Share it with the press and ask them why they have not investigated this case. Share it with everybody. Make sure that it goes wide so they know that you, the people, the public, care to ensure that justice must be had in this case, and ensure that those who committed these egregious crimes must be held accountable, whoever they are, because no one is above law. No judge is above law. I wear it every day on my head. I know that from childhood, that nobody's above law. I've never feared anybody in my life, and I'm not going to start to fear anybody now, because what can they do? What can they do that they haven't done before? Why would I fear my criminal? Brian Leveson is my criminal. I have a duty to put him where my criminal belongs, in prison, and make sure that he will be there for a very long time, because some of these crimes carry life sentence, and there is more than enough evidence to ensure that they are convicted, and that's what they are afraid of. They send innocent men to prison, but they commit heinous crimes, and they don't want to be held accountable. That's wrong. I wouldn't stand for that. So we have a situation, a situation here, and we need to do something about it, because they couldn't intimidate me into settling out of court, because I want them to be prosecuted. That's why they tried to kill me and assassinate me, and that's why they abducted me on the 19th of December 2018 and attempted to assassinate me at Wombuscock prison. And when that was exposed, they kidnapped me and locked me up in a mental institution, trying to cover up what the assassination. and to then try to assassinate me there. And all that fell. Please, again, I remind you, please watch the first two videos first, the first part and the second part first, so you can get a clearer picture of what has happened. This is where we are now. We need to do all in our power to ensure that the people who committed these crimes are held accountable. And as I said, and this will be clear to anyone, the reason why they did all these things was to cover up the heinous criminal criminal act against my children, the abduction and the sexual abuse of my children, and attempted murder of my son. Brian Leveson, as you know, record will show, he retired in 2019. But the current president, Victoria Sharp, not only continued these crimes, but she has even escalated them further. He's using in every court and jurisdiction, he used all the courts to obstruct all my cases, to ensure they cannot get a trial because they don't want the public to hear the evidence. And then he used every judge, including judges that, pervert judges that she selected herself in every court and jurisdiction, including the so-called Mr. Justice Poole, the so-called Mr. Justice Andrew Becker, so-called Deputy District Judge, Deputy Judge Richard Clayton of King's Chambers, the so-called Mr. Justice Swift, and the so-called Mrs. Justice Fabe, and the so-called Mr. Justice Soul, and then in the most shameful and embarrassing abuses of judicial office, in bogging me down, in totally perverse and outrageous and senseless cover-up, libelous and abusive cover-up so-called decisions. They obstruct and stifle all my claims and appeals, all of them undoubtedly most meritorious in nature. And they are doing all this to sabotage all my effort to hold accountable judges and police officers, government lawyers, and these rogue doctors involved in the abduction, the sexual abuse, and attempted murder of my children and their mother. These most vile people who tortured and attempted to assassinate me. And in the Court of Appeal, they have obstructed all my appeals to quash these truly embarrassing and evidently senseless cover-up decisions. And they libeled and blackmailed me in their most desperate but totally void attempt to undermine and silence my campaign and my case my case that raises issue of considerable public importance. And they are doing all these things because the evidence, they say, will cause considerable damage and embarrassment to the establishment and individuals who committed these crimes. Hence, the judiciary and the court have evidently become a platform to actively, to cover up extremely disturbing crimes and to obstruct the course of civil and criminal justice, as they actively and most shamefully engage in unprecedented and atrocious obstructions of justice and miscarriages of justice. And this is why they have obstructed the underlying case, which they, for 17 years, the underlying case that the senior and appellant rational judges say should be tried expeditiously since 2007. And they appeal CA 2024 000688, in the Court of Appeal, which should have been heard, and the necessary, very simple necessary order to ensure the progress of these claims proceed expeditiously, as the previous courts have said that they must. That appeal as an emergency appeal, and it's supposed to have been, according to the rules of in the civil appeal, the order should be made within 7 days. Yet, for 9 months and counting, that appeal had been obstructed in their most desperate attempt to stifle all these claims, to ensure that the public never get to hear the evidence. So, members of the public, I urge you again to resist this and to ensure that these people are held accountable. You have the right to know this evidence, and these are your servants. These are public servants. They have the duty to account to you, the members of the public. You have to know what they have been up to. You have the right to know that. You have these vile cover-up judges who doesn't want you to know what you should know, who want to cover up what's happening. And this is happening under the knowledge and even direction of Chief Justice Carr. Because you will see, she knows everything. I wrote to her. These things are not happening without her knowledge. She knows everything. And in order to cover up and prevent the public hearing this case, they have unlawfully seized, destroy or dispose my legal files and business file in more than 50 very large folders. They have unlawfully seized and disposed more than 300 hours of CCTVs. They have unlawfully seized my computer hard drive and 30 camcorders and other recording devices from me, containing colossal amount of incriminating evidence. So the criminals, this Brian Leveson and these other criminals, are in possession of the mountains of incriminating evidence of their crimes, all in their most desperate but totally void attempt to evade justice and cover up these crimes from the public. And as you can clearly see, all their effort has been in total vain, because I still have more than enough evidence to prosecute and convict them for the long list of heinous crimes in the criminal court. And with your help, the members of the public, I will achieve this. But despite the mountains of evidence, and despite the fact that the evidence is undisputed and undisputable, the Prime Minister, as you will see, and the Chief Justice remain silent, in public at least, and neither Keir Starmer or Mrs. Carr, the Chief Justice, has condemned these crimes or called for the prosecution of the most vile criminals involved in these crimes, including Brian Leveson and the so-called Mr. Justice Foskett, Peter Bunshaw, and others. And despite my repeated correspondence to the Attorney General, the Director of Public Prosecution and the head of the CPS, the National Crime Agency, as I said, due to the organized nature of these crimes, due to the scale and unprecedented and seriousness of these crimes, for which the National Crimes Agency should be involved. None of the above has even informed me of any plan to arrest, let alone prosecute, these most vile criminals. And while all these are going on, Brian Leveson, the Commissioner of Police, the Ministry of Justice, stole and disposed my home and other properties. They disposed or caused the loss of my businesses, including my factories, merchandise, including over 200 motor vehicles, assets of all my possessions, and large number of real estate properties and vast acres of land overseas. They turned me from a businessman, a philanthropist, a landlord, to homeless and impecunious in their most desperate but totally void attempts to undermine me, which they hope would weaken my resolve. But of course, all this has been in total vain. I am more determined now, more than ever, to ensure that they face justice in the criminal court for their crimes. And everything that they have done in furthering the agenda to cover up these crimes are more crimes. These are still the continuation of the same criminal conspiracy. I'm fighting with your help to ensure they are held accountable. And all their efforts have backfired, because the more they did this, the more evidence that I've got, the more serious the situation, their situation becomes. But the more desperate they become. But we have to bring them down. We have to ensure that they face justice like any other vile criminal, and put them where they belong. Just to add, I purchased, when I mentioned the vast hectares of land and other real estate properties that I purchased, they were actually purchased with the intention to build free schools and orphanages in one of my philanthropic projects of providing free education and free housing for the most vulnerable. So that's what this, a lot of these lands, agricultural lands, and the lands where we will build this vast size of schools that could cater for thousands and thousands of children at once, and homes where they will live to ensure that they have proper housing and a good quality education. And we were going to offer these free of charge as part of philanthropies to ensure that children who could not afford to have these things that we people take for granted could have them. But all these things now has been put in jeopardy. But I intend to resume this project once I get these things back on track. I am certain that any rational person reading the evidence in this case will have no difficulty at all in concluding that I'm dealing with a 3-decade-long unbroken chain campaign of harassment, misfeasance, and state persecution led by the Metropolitan Police, the Ministry of Justice, and the Judiciary in a criminal conspiracy headed by the former third most senior judge, Brian Leveson, which every rational judge found to be unprecedented and extreme criminal acts which should never be allowed to happen. And according to the commissioner's lawyer, as I said earlier on, there are more than, they have identified hundreds of police officers involved in this crime. And the Commissioner of Police Harassment alone has resulted in hundreds of very serious and extreme crimes. All the evidence prove absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt, that this is a state persecution organized by Brian Leveson, Victoria Sharp, senior lawyers in the in the government department, government legal department, and the Commissioner of Police. It proves that Brian Leveson is the ringleader. That's what the court official confidential document that I have obtained shows. And also this is also confirmed by the various covert recordings of senior government lawyers and police officers and others. Every judge who has been involved in this case found it raises issue of considerable public importance, and it is in the public interest that the case must be heard and that it should be tried expeditiously. The judges stated that because of the unique nature of the case, that it should be publicly funded to ensure that it must proceed to trial. These are findings made by senior and appellate judges from 2007 to 2013. Yet, for 17 long years, the Commissioner of Police and the Legal Aid Agency have embarked on a criminal conspiracy to obstruct the case from trial and to ensure that the total destruction of my family and the abduction of my children by those who abuse them. And they did all this in the most desperate attempt to prevent the public from hearing the evidence in the case and to prevent my children from giving evidence against the most vile people who abducted, sexually abused, and attempted to murder them, including Brian Leveson, the so-called Mr. Justice Foskett, Peter Openshaw, and others so-called judges, and the government lawyers and police officers, including senior police officers from the private office of the commissioner. And Victoria Sharp abuses her position as the president of the King's Bench to such unprecedented and most extreme level by using pervert judges who in turn use the legal aid agency as a ruse in evidently continuing to obstruct the case from going to trial in the most desperate effort to shield these most vile criminals who abuse and destroy my children and my family, all to ensure that the public does not hear the evidence in this case and to ensure that these criminals evade accountability. These are undisputed and incontrovertible hard evidence. So the question that you, the members of the public, should be asking is, why has the Attorney General, the DPP, the CPS, the National Crime Agency not sought the necessary warrants for the arrest of these most vile criminals who committed these heinous and abominable crimes? Why have they not been prosecuted when there are more than enough evidence to ensure their convictions? This case crosses all political divide, because whatever your political views, I'm sure that you and I agrees that the sexual abuse and violence against children or women are absolutely unacceptable, and that the offenders deserve to be severely punished. This is what this campaign is about. This is what we are seeking to ensure, that the people in powerful position cannot abuse children or women with absolute impunity. We are seeking to ensure that if they do, that they will be punished to the full extent of the law. This is a case where both the Conservative and the Labour government failed, and every rational person in both parties will condemn them for covering up these crimes and shielding the culprit. This is also what happened during the time of Jimmy Savile. And it was, as I said, the current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who was the DPP then, and he also shielded Jimmy Savile from prosecution. So please don't let Keir Starmer or the current DPP abuse their position to shield these most vile criminals involved in the abduction, the sexual abuse, and attempted murder of my children, and the whole host of other crimes. Because if Brian Leveson and Foskett gang and others involved in these crimes are allowed to evade justice in the face of the mountains of evidence the mountains of indisputable and incontrovertible evidence of their crimes, then you will be setting the worst kind of precedent. Because to allow them to get away with these crimes, what you will be saying is that they are above the law and therefore entitled to abduct, abuse, and murder any child at will. What you will be saying is that they could abuse their position as judges to kidnap, imprison, torture, and assassinate innocent people only to cover up their crimes. I'm sure this is not what you, the members of the public, want to say or want to see happen. To let Brian Leveson and Foskett and their gang get away with these crimes will be the most disturbing retrograde step, too far, and one which could only take the judiciary and the justice system of this country into further dark abyss. Because if they get away with this crime, then they would have learned no lessons and nothing will change. They will, any other child that they abuse, they will try to murder, and they will probably succeed in murdering that child. And not only that, Brian Leveson and Foskett gang, if you let them get away with these crimes, then you'll be setting the worst kind of example, because the others will copy. There will be a copycat, and others will repeat the same. So this is surely not the sort of example that the public will want to be setting. It cannot be one law for the public and another law, and the people who are supposed to enforce the law becoming laws unto themselves. So the next time that they abuse other children, it will be impossible for anyone to get the unprecedented mountain of evidence which I have obtained as in this case, because the next time they will not allow their victims to leave. They will end up murdering them, as they attempted to do in our case. The fact that they don't want the public hearing the evidence should be a real eye-opener, that they clearly appreciate the strength of the mountain of evidence and the colossal damage and embarrassment that it will cause. And this is a reason, even more reason, why the public must ensure that this trial go ahead and this evidence is made available to the public in the fullest extent, so that people will know what really happened and the extent that it happened, and all those who are involved in it, and ask the question why some people like such elements are still allowed to be judges, police officers, and government lawyers, and NHS consultants. People engaged in the kidnapping, sexual abuse, and attempted murder of children. People engaged in attempted murder of my wife. People engaged in kidnapping, hostage taking, solicited to murder me and attempted to assassinate me. How could people like this be the sort of people that represent the judiciary of this country, the police officers of this country, the NHS doctors of this country, the government lawyers of this country? How can that be acceptable? I'm sure the members of the public will not accept that and will be minded to do something to change it. And the way to do it is by ensuring that this campaign succeeds, because this campaign wants to change that. I am determined to do it, and with your help, that will be achieved. Don't let what happened to my family happen to you or your loved ones. So, as I said, please support this campaign, because your support is imperative to ensuring that they are held accountable for their crimes. And by so doing, you will not only safeguarding yourself, you will also be safeguarding other members of the public by ensuring that they are held accountable through the criminal court. which will be further give this campaign a mandate to seek the critically important changes to end the absolute impunity and total lack of accountability at the Judiciary UK and people in powerful position who regularly commit extremely serious crimes without any consequences. Such vital changes in law will go a long way in safeguarding other children and family from the absolute destruction that they have caused to my family and my children. So please share this video far and wide, and share our other posts and all the evidence that you will see on our profile far and wide. Share it to the press also, and share it to all the law enforcement agencies that we mentioned in this video. And you will also see the correspondence to them. You can send them a copy of that correspondence from our profile and ask them, why have they not done anything about this case? And ask the press, why, after investigating and confirming the facts in this case, why have they not broken this case to the wider public? Why is it appear that they are aligning themselves to cover up these heinous crimes and to shield the most vile criminals who committed them? So, as I said earlier on, sharing this video will help this campaign a long way. We need to share it in a very large volume. Please share all the three parts of this video, the part 1, 2, and 3, so that the public can hear the full of this broadcast. Also, please share it to this so-called MP for Hendon, David Pinto Doncheski, who is evidently covering up this crime. He has not raised this issue, this case, in the House of Commons, despite having his duty to do so as a member of the Parliament. And nothing could be more serious for any rational member of the public, and a member of Parliament than a case such as this, because the House of Commons is actually the first place that this case should have been raised long ago. And despite my correspondences to him, I have not heard anything from him. He has simply apparently set out to join the cover-up. So please email him, tweet to him. I have all his, you will see, be able to find his Twitter page, but I also have it in the correspondence that you will read from our profile. So please share with him and ask him what the hell is going on. This is not the sort of person that we want to, any member of public want to represent them as an MP, someone who will engage in covering up the abduction and the sexual abuse and attempted murder of children, and kidnapping and the torture and attempted assassination of the father fighting for his children. It's not something that anybody would want to have to represent them as an MP. So let him remind him of his duty to act and ensure that he does so. Whatever your color or ethnicity, remember, we are one human race. And we always, I've used this hashtag, one human race. So please use this hashtag. We need to, some people at times need to be reminded the need to act together, irrespective of the color, the skin color of the victim of a crime. This sort of crime, as again, all the lawyers and judges who have been involved in it, these crimes affect all of us. It affects whites as well as blacks. What happened in this case, to allow it to not to allow it to happen with absolute impunity will have revolving consequences for all people of all races. So we need to act as one. And when you read about my history and the type of work that I have done, I have represented people of all colors, of all race, of all religion. And I did so for over 13 years, dealing with all sorts of legal matters for them, pro bono, without charging them a penny, because I had a legal experience and they needed help. And it is my duty, it is a human thing to do, to give help to people who need it, help that you can offer. So I ask you, please, to fight to help this campaign succeed, because this is a campaign for the public. This is your campaign. This campaign is fighting to bring changes that will benefit the much wider public. The changes in the judiciary will benefit the much wider public. The changes with the police, the Ministry of Justice, to ensure that an NHS trust paid by the public does not become again a scene of attempted murder. And if nothing is done this time, next time it's going to end up in real murder. The public has a duty to ensure that these things does not happen again. So it is a campaign for all of us. It is your campaign. I urge you, members of the public, please to support it. Work for this campaign to succeed. Share the video. Share them again and again and again. Share them to everyone. Let the world see what happened, so that people will find the need and be compelled to hold the people who did this accountable. We are not asking for money. We want the people who did this punished, to ensure they will not do it to you, your loved ones, and other members of the public. And this is a fight for humanity and human rights and accountability. As humans, we would expect from a civilized society to act in certain way, and certainly the sort of the issues and facts that you will read in this case is not how humans should act. But what has been happening at Judiciary UK is not how human will act. You wouldn't expect humans, judges in a so-called civilized society, to be engaged in these crimes, to engage in the abduction and abuse of children, attempted murder of children, and to engage in assassination of the father fighting to expose what happened to his children. They don't do that. So you, the public, has a duty to remind them of their duties and the need for a change, and to force the change. This change has to be forced. They will not change unless it is forced. And we need the power behind us. We need the support behind us. Once we have the support from you, then we will compel them to change. And as I was saying, there is the need for accountability. As humans, we would expect from a civilized society to hold those who committed truly heinous and abominable crimes of such unprecedented scale and length of time accountable. As I stated earlier, some great human beings in prison and in mental hospital risk their jobs to save me from torture and what would have been an inevitable assassination of me by the state and Judiciary UK. So I have dedicated my life to help safeguarding others. and to fight my hardest for justice for others who have suffered injustices and crimes. I have never had to ask anyone for help in my life. All my life, people have been relying on me for help, and I have always given generously. And as well as having been involved in various philanthropic projects, as I stated earlier on, as a law graduate and with my considerable knowledge and success in the civil and criminal litigation, I worked pro bono for over 13 years, helping all sorts of members of the public with their legal problems. But as they have now destroyed my businesses, disposed and caused the loss of my properties and my assets and everything that I own, I've lost absolutely everything. But recovering these things are not my priority at the moment. You can see quite clearly, my priority are far from that. I need to get this campaign underway to ensure that those who did this are held accountable. These are my priorities. So in the future, we will be seeking your assistance also to help us ensure that this campaign succeeds. So we will hope to set up a public funding, maybe on a GoFundMe website, something like that, because we've been told that it will cost considerable a lot of money in running the ad about this campaign, in getting the public, wider public, to know about it. So that will be a matter for the future. But now, what I ask you again, I asked you, and I will repeat that from the bottom of my heart, please help this campaign succeed by sharing the posts, by sharing the videos in large volume, ensuring that they are shared and people, more and more people, becoming aware of it, and the people in authority become aware of it, receive considerable amount of sharing and questions from you as to why they are not doing anything to force them to do something. Please help us use these hashtags when you tweet. Hashtag #EzugoChildren, hashtag #EzugoFamily, hashtag no judge, hashtag not above law, hashtag arrest Brian Leveson, hashtag arrest Mr. Justice Foskett, hashtag arrest Peter Okunshaw. We are, of course, the campaign set up by Justice for Ezugo Family. And I say, finally, from deep down from my heart, I thank you very much for spending your time and watching this video. Please share. Thank you.